Here comes a new challenger!
Royals do it elegantly.
Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another big review. This week we are going to be taking a look at Rachel, but before we do, let's go ahead and get the important stuff out of the way. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, that way you don't miss another daily upload video, or on days like today you don't miss 2 uploads, because there is going to be a very awesome upload right around the time this one goes live that you guys will not want to miss as it pertains to the boss syndrome characters. But before we get into all that, that's for the other video. Let's go ahead and talk about Rachel. So for those of you who have been living under a rock and do not know who this girl is, basically this is the new free-to-play character for the Fest pool, and she is by far and away the best free character we have in the entire game. So if you're watching this after the collab has already ended and you have just gotten into the game, whether it's today or 3 months down the road, I'm sorry you missed this, but your time may come again. She may be back, but let's go ahead and take a look at what makes her so special. So first thing we always like to do is take a look at the skill effects. So let's go ahead and start there. So first skill is going to be her S1. It's going to be Dance of Fire, and that is going to give her super armor for 3 seconds when using a skill, and she's also going to decrease damage received by 70% for 3 seconds. Then she is going to have a 30% chance to ignore the target's guard upon landing a successful attack. So as always on this channel, we're talking PVE with this review, so that last effect really doesn't pertain to a whole lot. But being able to decrease her damage received and being a balance type character, unlike a lot of these Seven Knights characters who are attack types, gives her a lot more staying power, and you can definitely feel it, especially when you're bossing with her. And then she also has her super armor for 3 seconds when using a skill, which again, another way to keep herself on the battlefield longer. So very, very good on her S1. Her S1 is her best skill. We'll go into the animations and talk about all that here in a moment, but let's move on to her S2. So her S2 is going to increase her attack by 28% for 7 seconds. She's also going to apply Infernal Flame to the target for 6 seconds upon a successful attack. So that's going to deal burn damage equal to 30% of her attack every 1 second, and decreases critical rate by 80% and defense by 30%. So pretty much that's where her damage ramp is coming in. Very good skill. The animation on her S2 and her S3 leave a lot to be desired, so you're really, like I said, going to be relying on your S1 to start combos and things of that nature, but that is going to be her S2. Very, very good as far as burn, which is kind of her bread and butter. So moving on to her S3. That is going to increase her power charge rate by 10% for 7 seconds and decreases the enemy's power charge rate by 5% upon landing a skill. So the power charge rate increase is very nice. Rachel is able to go in there and really throw out her finishers left and right, especially if she is on a team with Kay as her leader. It just ramps her power charge up incredibly well. So very, very strong in bossing. Again, we'll talk about that here soon, but those are going to be her finishers there, and then her striker skill, which who cares. So that is going to be the skills. Let's go ahead and look at the cores. So the core effects, I'm going to scroll down here. She's going to have Phoenix Incarnate, which deals burn damage equal to 85% of attack to all enemies upon landing a skill on a burn target. And then she's going to reset the cooldown of Dance of Fire upon landing a blast skill. And that has a 20-second cooldown. Then of course she'll have the Seven Knights exclusive core, which is Seven Knights increases attack by 20% and decreases damage received by 20% when HP is 50% or more. So that's a really good core overall. The dealing burn damage equal to 85% of attack to all enemies upon landing a skill on a burn target is phenomenal for her mobbing. So it goes without saying that she does very well with the mobbing. So then being able to reset the cooldown of Dance of Fire, which is her S1, is again a great addition to her kit. Her S1 again being her best skill. Then you have the Head of House Agni would sound weird. Becomes immune to damage for 3 seconds and resets active skill cooldown when HP is 1% or less. So then she has a PVE exclusive. She recovers HP by 30% when HP is 20% or less. Cooldown 90 seconds. So that'll pop probably once if you're running up against something that's a little bit on the tougher side, but being able to be immune to damage for 3 seconds, reset active skill cooldowns when her HP is 1% or less, is basically going to be a built-in Akane set. So that opens you up to being able to freely use her with things like the Leah card set or the Gintama set, and still be able to get that extra immunity whenever you are at 1% HP or below. So very, very good overall cores, as you can tell here. We'll go ahead and talk more about the cards here in just a few moments, but first, of course, we want to talk about these skills in action and see what we're looking at there. So let's go ahead and hop into those, and then we'll get into the full review. So starting with her skill 1, I want to show off first and foremost the range. As you can see, you can pretty much be at the opposite end of the screen and still connect fully. So very strong skill, like I've said, that is her best skill. It's also an off the ground, so that's going to be her main combo starter. Her S2 is interesting. It has a very long wind up on it, and it is a projectile. So basically she'll swing her sword around a few times and then she'll send out her little phoenix. But really, with that one, you want to be on top of them. As you can see, you'll get the full effect of it. If you're far away, the animation time on it is such that they'll be able to dodge it fairly easily, and you definitely do not want that. So that is going to be her S2. It's decent, but like I said, her S1 definitely is the stronger of the two. It is not an off the ground, by the way, like her S1 is. So kind of moving on to her S3, which I think is by far probably... well, it might be her weakest skill, but it's debatable considering it's pretty quick. But it's kind of just a poke, as you can see there. We'll do it again. So if you're a couple character spaces away, it looks about like 3 or so, you can still connect with it. So it does have an okay-ish range, but you're definitely not getting the full effect out of it at that range. So just kind of be aware of that. So also not an off the ground with the S3, which is another thing to definitely take note of. But that's going to basically be her skills. So really, her rotations are pretty strong if you connect her S1, which isn't hard with these mobs. She does one-tap mobs very well, so all of her skills are pretty decent, but I would definitely say that her S1 is her strongest skill. Moving on to the best card sets. So first one I want to take a look at is the Tekken set, the one that causes rage amongst all of you. But when it comes to the Tekken set, I always like to throw it on everybody and kind of see the results. As you'll be able to see here, it does pretty well. It does pretty well. Definitely not my favorite card set for her, but it does do its job. And then moving on here to the Gintama event set, which is going to give her the 75% increase to her burn. We'll go ahead and take a look at how that does on her. You'll be able to tell that it does pretty well. It's a pretty good set for her, just like it is for Kay. It does good damage, so that's going to be her with the Gintama set. And then for me personally, this is my favorite set on her, which is going to be, as always it seems, the Akane set. So she would probably also be really good with a Leah set. Unfortunately, I keep getting the third card in that set instead of the second card, which is the only one I need. So, but you'll be able to see here, the Akane set does very good damage for her, and obviously it has very good symmetry with her cores. So let's go ahead and get into the review and start with mobbing. As far as mobbing is concerned with Rachel, she's very, very strong. With her S1, she is able to pretty much group mobs with a very generous XY axis and take them out in one skill. And really, as far as one-tap potential, thanks to her burn damage, she is very, very strong in that capacity. There are many times that I've taken her into the Reviving Hells dungeon, and she is able to pretty much clear all of the waves at tier 43 by herself without tagging out. So overall, her game as far as mobbing is concerned is very, very good. She also has a nice little animation startup on her card finisher, which allows her to basically, as a lot of you may or may not know, throw that out there before the next mob has even dropped, and then by the time they show up, she'll be able to catch them and take them out to save you some time on the clock. So overall for Rachel, she is very, very strong with the mobbing. I would say that it is probably her second strongest point as far as her PVE viability, and we'll get into what makes her the strongest as far as her PVE viability in just a moment. But as far as her mobbing skills go, definitely a 4.5. Her S2 and her S3 hold her back a bit. Moving on to her best asset, which is going to be bossing. I really don't think it's any type of secret at this point, now that we are a few weeks removed from her release, that Rachel is one of the premier bossers in the entire game. If you put her next to a K-Dash as far as a leadership skill, then she is going to put in a ton of work, but even without him, she is still able to definitely do a very good job at shutting these bosses down. Really, it just boils down to her damage output. These are early clips of me playing with her before I had even gotten down her combos and kind of her sequences with her skills. But you'll be able to tell, even in this early footage, she does so much damage to these bosses that she basically is able to just shred through them in Reviving Hell's Dungeon without much of any effort. Definitely one of the premier as far as bossing characters in general go, but also as far as Red goes, she's probably going to be just behind K. I would say definitely behind K, and then beyond that, it's up in the air whether or not you prefer her or the Rock. Really, you're using them for different things, though, so I don't find them to be the best comparables. Really, the best comparison you'll be able to get for her is going to be K, at which point I definitely think he is the stronger. However, she is a very close second. It doesn't really matter what boss you're putting her up against. She's going to be able to just go in and do her job. And really, as far as the hard mode for the guild raid goes, or some of the immortals, you're definitely going to want to invest in her if you haven't already done so, if you take those modes seriously whatsoever. My recommendation, lightly invest in her if you are still on the fence, and then check her out in those modes and you will see her potential, and you'll probably want to build her from there. She's definitely a hard 5 out of 5 for me for bossing. Moving on now to the final topic, which is PVAI, and this is where I think Rachel is the weakest. So when it comes to PVAI, really the biggest issue becomes her skill animations. So yes, if she connects, she's able to do very, very strong damage thanks to her burn, and she is really good in general for PVAI. However, whenever I am doing these reviews, I have to stack these characters up against everybody else in whatever it is that they're doing, and really, I don't see any reason you would pick her over a lot of other characters. She does tend to be a little bit goofy with her animations on her S2 and her S3, her S1 being very strong for this, but at the end of the day, I think there are better characters. I think she'll definitely serve you well. If you like her, then you'll be able to get through these things just fine. It's not like these things are overly challenging when you're talking about League or Infinite Battle. But there are definitely worse characters you could pick. I don't want to pick on her too much because, again, these modes don't tend to be that difficult to begin with, and most best characters you can get through it. But really, as far as optimability is concerned, she's definitely not optimal in my opinion for this, so we'll go ahead and give her a 4. And that is going to bring us to our final score, which is going to be a 4.5 out of 5. There you have it, guys, a 4.5 out of 5. So really, at the end of the day, with Rachel, she is extremely close to being just absolutely broken. There are a few things that hold her back, and mostly it pertains to her S2 and her S3 being kind of... they leave a lot to be desired. They aren't bad skills by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that they are not ideal, in my opinion, as far as their animations, whether they're their startup or just overall. They're not going to be skills that really endear themselves as far as some of the other skills in the game are concerned. When you look at skill animations, that is a big, big thing to keep in mind going forward whenever you see a new character release. Pay attention to the skill animations, because a lot of times a skill animation can make or break a character. So, really, the S2 and the S3, they're decent to average, but I'm not going to give them much more than that as far as their animation startups, kind of just their animations in general. So that is her biggest con. If you can't already tell, I've brought it up a million times, and that's really her biggest issue. Outside of that, however, really at the end of the day, she's Rachel. She's a Seven Knights character. She's going to have the Seven Knights stones. You can even slap the R stones on her and probably even get more stats out of her. So if you were able to get some of these stones that would give you perhaps the increased burn damage for a balanced red type, then by all means make sure you throw those on her. I'm sure that those are going to do great work. But overall, 4.5 out of 5. Extremely strong character. She's definitely not on the level of a Dellons, in my opinion, but I do think just for her overall versatility as far as PvE is concerned, she has become almost a must if you want to score high in a lot of these different modes. So that is Rachel. For those of you who have been playing the game for a while and have her and got her for free, be very, very thankful. For those of you who are complaining when you were getting memories for her, when you were going in on some of these banners during the 7 Nights collab, don't be upset. You should be very happy that you have them. In fact, if you're somebody that cares about the PvE modes where you're able to get some of these other rewards like rubies and maybe even some of these boxes that'll give you stones and things like that, she is going to be invaluable as far as those are concerned. So you should be very happy if you pulled multiples of her. But anyway, guys, that's my opinion on Rachel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I am trying to make these a little bit shorter, so you may not have noticed some formatting changes to this week's big review. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you did like it, make sure that you like the video and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you like the new formatting for the video. I'm trying to move a little bit quicker to try and keep it a little bit simpler for you guys. So anyway, guys, I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Continue.